So you're an INFJ. Well, how do you know? Well, the first thing is you're probably still studying. INFJs are on a permanent life journey to discover themselves and learn as much as they can. They've usually got more degrees than a thermometer by the time they finish. Most INFJs struggle to believe that they can be defined through 4 arbitrary letters in Myers-Briggs. They kind of feel they don't fully understand the depth of themselves, so how could I possibly know and define them through 4 letters? They're also highly relational and deeply committed to those in their circle of care and influence. INFJs make natural leaders, and they love the challenge of creating environments where others are able to fulfill their potential. Cut an INFJ in half and that's what they bleed. How can I help myself and others become everything that they could be? INFJs always question whether they know enough to be truly experts in what they do. Everyone else thinks they're amazing. They just struggle to get over that hurdle sometimes. But when they do, they make exceptional coaches and mentors. And they set very high standards for themselves, and they expect the same level of discipline and commitment from those that they're training. Every character type has weaknesses in their personality, chinks in the armor, if you will. We call that the kryptonite. You remember what it's like when Superman's flying, he's helping everybody, he's doing amazing things. But when the kryptonite's present, his capacity is severely diminished and he's unable to do the things that he would naturally. Every character type has kryptonite. And for INFJs, what happens is they often need regular time away from people so they can deal with the demands around them and see the big picture and set course again. INFJs, when the kryptonite comes close, tend to overextend themselves. They are natural people pleasers and find it really hard to say no, both to people in need and also to strong leaders who kind of say that they need their skills and expertise. Consequently, as the kryptonite comes close, INFJs begin to become physically exhausted. They're overcommitted, and then they fear letting others down and what that says about them. They get overwhelmed with people in the present, and they find it hard to see the big picture again. They become their own harshest critics, and when that happens, tears are never far from the surface. You'll find that under that pressure, when the kryptonite's present, they start to overanalyze their engagement with people. They'll often spend hours alone at night wondering how that phrase could have caused offense without them knowing. They really should be sleeping, but under pressure, the kryptonite keeps them awake. When the kryptonite comes really close and they really feel that sense of stress and pressure, they're overwhelmed by people demanding of them and they can't see what the future holds. It's often at that moment that they often seek sensory escapism, dulling the pain with a shot of retail therapy or hedonistic pleasure. They have a tendency in pain to overindulge in food, in drink, in sex, all those kind of hedonistic tendencies. And that obviously undermines their leadership and credibility with those around them. But there's always good news, there's always opportunities to grow. And for the INFJ, one of the most helpful things is for them to learn to schedule time in their weeks where they're actually away from people, where they're able to re-energize and put the different demands of their life into context in the big picture. Every INFJ has to own their own people-pleasing tendencies. Their tendency is to always say yes, whereas actually they need to learn how to say no. One of the things that helps them enormously is when they're able to build a filter into that request process that prevents them saying yes when they're presented with the need, and where they're able to go away and actually filter what is a real priority for their limited time and resources. INFJs just often need to realize how much they do know and how much life and energy you actually get from apprenticing others. Their perfectionist tendencies often cause them to question whether they have enough to invest in others. But what you find is you do, and if the moment you take that decision to do it, the amount of life and energy it will release in you is incredibly empowering. INFJs also, you have to own the challenge to lead and not simply settle for being a number 2. If you have a vision of something you want to do with your life, then I'd encourage you to go for it, rather than always assume that someone is better than you or you can play the role at number 2 forever. And lastly, the internal voices that you hear that speak lies about how you've offended others, or ways in which you kind of critique and self-analyze your day. Learning to recognize that most of those are untruths, and that actually those who love you would come and tell you if you'd ever offended them. Most INFJs offend no one, but it's amazing how many hours you can spend wondering and overanalyzing how you might have done that.